Okay, let's get started. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out and supporting me as a local author. That's really appreciated. Thanks, everyone. Before I actually get started in some of the other things, I do want to do some thank yous because anybody who's written a book or has tried to write a book or did anything similar, or any creative project for that matter, a lot of work goes into it, and usually not just from one person. So I'm going to do some thank yous first. First, I want to thank my wife, there she is in the back, for supporting me. She also is come up here. She's an editing major who graduated from BYU and does a great job. All of these books, the ones that you guys will be getting or buying later, if that's what you want to do, all of the interior was done by her, so it's beautiful. I also want to thank Shannon. She's over here. Shannon is a local artist and one of my really good friends, and she did the cover for Fictional, so it looks amazing because of her. So thanks, Shannon. Do another round of applause. Those are the people I wanted to thank, but I also wanted to tell you a little bit about where this book came from. So way back in 2020 COVID days, right, where all of us were quarantined and bored out of our minds, Elena, my wife, who was an editing major at the time, I think, or before, maybe you just graduated.
No, I hadn't graduated.
You hadn't graduated yet? There's a class there where they do editing, and they want people to submit books for a contest. And I was bored and had nothing to do, and she was like, you should totally try it. And I was like, sure, I would love to try it. I tend to be a long writer. I like to write longer books, and I'm very long-winded sometimes. And for the contest, it had to be a very short amount of words. So I thought it would be a good challenge for me to write a much shorter book than what I'm used to. And I did it exactly to the count. I think it was 45,000 words, and that is the exact number of words that were in the book. So I submitted it because she encouraged me to do so, and it won actually as honorable mention in thriller and suspense category. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, I submitted it. It won. That was really great. It's sponsored by Covenant Communications, if you guys know that publication group. I think they're up in Salt Lake area. So it was really exciting for me. I'd never really won an award for anything I'd written, so that was new and fun. And where it actually came from, though, the actual plot was there's a YouTuber named Mr. Nightmare. Anybody heard of? Probably nobody's heard of Mr. Nightmare. Go home and watch Mr. Nightmare. I don't sponsor him, but there you go. Mr. Nightmare does kind of campfire horror stories that people will submit to him, and then he tells them. I'm sure most of them aren't true. People probably make them up and send them in, but they're super fun. They feel very campfire horror story-esque. And the ones that really got me excited was ones about home invasion stories, which essentially, right, is someone comes into your house without you wanting to be there, which is terrifying and horrifying. But things that scare me really interest me because I want to understand why does that freak me out so much, and then it's less scary. But when I was doing that, I was really thinking about what is it like that you're going to be thinking too much about this when you get home. But when we go home, we don't lock our doors. It's 9 o'clock at night, and we're safe. This is our space and our home. What happens when someone just walks in? The only barrier is your door, which isn't locked. And so that was kind of the process I was thinking about, is how frightening of an idea that is, that our sense of safety can be shattered so easily. So I'm obviously not going to spoil things from the book, but I will say there are 3 home invasion moments in this very short book. So clearly that is kind of where it came from, was me exploring that concept and that idea. I think you guys will like it once it's in your hands, and I hope it freaks you out just a little bit, but not too much, is the goal. So that's kind of where Fictional came from. But as we jump into this, I'm going to be doing a read aloud here of chapter 1 and 2 in just a minute. But when I do that read aloud, feel free to jump up and grab cookies. Feel free to run to the bathroom down that way if you need to. I have if you see these little mugs that are kind of all over the place, Those you can scan, and you can purchase Fictional, and it just goes right there. I do have some copies available here, and some of you have already purchased them, so yours is ready to go. And so after that, we'll do the Q&A, so you can ask me whatever questions. I have a few that people already asked online. And then after the Q&A, I'll sign some books and socialize and read and enjoy. So once again, thanks everybody for being here. Okay, that moment has come. I'm going to read chapter 1 and 2 of Fictional to all of you guys. Yes. Mr. Dunn, this is my teacher's aide, so you can call me Ethan.
No, it's like, how often do you like to be interrupted?
Yes. Super used to it. Awesome. Okay, here we go. You ready? We're going to do this. Chapter 1. Here we go. It is titled Sirens. Okay. Stars are so pretty. The woman who sat in the glossy black van was staring through the window to the spattering of stars that littered the dark canvas beyond. Her hair was done up in a perfect bun, and a smile stretched across her face. Her eyes were a violent blue. The man sitting next to her didn't look up, but stared straight forward, his face plastered with a smile that showed all of his perfectly white teeth. He should be coming around the bend here pretty soon. The woman looked over at him, and her smile fell. "This is no fun," she said. "I always thought that if you're going to kill someone, you should do it nice and proper." She spoke to him as if she were talking about a meal that didn't quite meet her expectations. The man glanced at her from the corner of his eye and spoke through his smile, his pale blue eyes wide. "But dear, this method is sure to work. It's nice to savor the act, but then people will ask questions, and that would do us no good." With a sigh, the woman turned to stare at the stars again. "Well, when you hit him, make sure you're going really fast." "You got it. I'm sure I can get enough speed to do the job." The man threw the car in reverse and backed farther away from where the alley intersected with Crescent Lane, a road that was hardly busy, even during the day. Then again, no street was really busy in Knighting, Montana. Knighting was just a small town, stuck in a ring of mountains and shadowed on the edges by woods. The car retreated from the light of the streetlights until camouflaged in the darkness. As the woman opened her window to let the air in, her white dress with a pattern of cool-colored flowers splashed on its hem rustled in the wind. She leaned back in her seat and breathed deeply. The man seemed to notice her pensive posture, but she didn't acknowledge his stare. He assumed she was so excited that she didn't want to talk to him, so he focused back on the road, waiting to hear the rumble of the other car. "I hope he doesn't hit the brakes when he comes." She patted his arm. "I'm sure he won't see us coming. Just make sure you time it right." The man flashed her a smile. "Oh, I will. I intend to enjoy it for as long as the moment lasts. Isn't it exciting?" The two let the question hang in the air as they sat quietly, unblinking like smiling dolls in a toy car. The man stared straight ahead at the road, and the woman gazed through the open window to the stars, the light glinting off of her red lipstick lips. At long last, the couple heard the hum of an approaching car. The woman leaned out the window eagerly, and then fell back against her seat with a nod. "It's him!" She clapped her hands like a delighted child. The man straightened the hat on his head. "Here we go." He stepped on the gas. The black car burst forward, its wheels squealing. The timing was just right. As the oncoming car came into view, red, battered, and well-loved, the sleek black car shot out of the alleyway, crossed both lanes of traffic, and smashed into the side of the other car. The cars spun, and for a moment the man and the woman could see the horrified expression of their victim. But then, the red car tumbled off the road, shattered glass spraying in every direction. The roof crumbled as the car flipped, and then flipped again. After rolling several times, the car finally stopped and went quiet. The black car had taken a fair battering as well, but the man and the woman remained unharmed. The woman brushed the dust off her dress, pulled a shard of glass from her shoulder, and opened the door. "That was lovely. Did you see the vehicle roll? I think I counted 4 times. The man wrenched open the door on the side, struggling slightly. The metal was bent horribly. He pushed past the airbags that had deployed and ignored the cracked glass on the driver's side window, which his head had struck. And what a noise! I did enjoy that crashing sound. He stepped around the bent metal of the black's car hood and peeked into the window of the red car. "Well, is he dead?" the woman asked. The man leaned in for a closer look. The victim, a black-haired man with a clean-shaven face, didn't move from his seat. The smiling man put his fingers against the other man's neck and then turned away from the window. "He's dead, all right." The woman frowned. "So short-lived. There'll be other chances for fun, I'm sure." The woman's heels clacked across the asphalt as the man stepped away from the broken vehicle and the quiet, glassy-eyed body of the driver. Do you think Sammy will miss him? The man shrugged his shoulders. Who knows? A chorusing of police sirens in the distance ended their conversation. The woman nodded toward the sound. Well, shall we be off then? Sounds wonderful. The man reached out and wrapped his fingers around her hand, and the two walked off into the night. Chapter 2. I don't know if you can see from that far away, but those two characters are actually on the back, and Shannon did an awesome job of depicting how weird and eerie they are. Okay, Chapter 2, Asa. I'm telling you, all of the best stories start with a dead body. I don't know, you love Dracula, and that doesn't have any dead bodies at the beginning. Well, a lady gets torn apart by wolves like 5 chapters in. Asa snorted, looking down at the paper bag he packed his lunch in early this morning. He felt the rough, crumpled edges of the brown paper. He'd used the same paper bag 3 days in a row. His mother had hated the idea of being wasteful. Philly, sitting across from him, was pressed against the other side of the round cafeteria table, leaning in as she talked. Her eyes were lit up like they always were when horror was involved. Asa looked back, pushing his messy brown bangs out of his face and leaned back casually in his chair. He countered, 5 chapters in? That's not the beginning. Plus, some of your favorite books and movies don't have dead bodies in them at all. Disney doesn't count. Philly flipped her platinum blonde hair, long on one side and shaved on the other. She decided that junior year was the time to do something drastic, and so without her mother's knowledge, had gotten her hair cut to look, in her own words, edgy. Asa had watched her mother nearly lose her mind when she saw Philly walk into her English classroom a month and a half ago with that hairdo. Asa had laughed. Even when she was trying to be edgy, she still looked more like Rapunzel from the Disney film. Pretty, with a smooth face, one of the only teenagers who hadn't been slapped upside the head by the acne stick, and glittery blue eyes. Besides, I'm trying to cleanse my Disney palate, as hard as that is these days with copious amounts of classic monster movies. Philly pushed her food with her fork. Please don't make me watch another rendition of Frankenstein, Asa said. Philly loved to talk about macabre things, and her enthusiasm always increased to a fever pitch on the 1st of October, and didn't abate until about mid-November, when Christmas made things too cheery to be talking about dead bodies showing up in lakes, or to be watching the latest horror flick she'd downloaded on her phone. Asa fingered the baby carrots in the Ziploc bag he pulled out from his sack. He tried to think of something cheery to talk about, but lately it was easier to just go along with whatever Philly was saying. Especially since most of the time now, he didn't know what he wanted to do. Thought of what you're going to be for the Halloween dance this year, Philly? Last year she had rocked a Carrie costume. Asa hadn't known what Carrie even was about until she went on her Stephen King rant. He'd gone as Aragorn, one of his favorite fantasy characters. And if Philly was right, Aragorn was the most heartthrobbing member of the Fellowship. Asa liked the idea of that. Philly sighed and shrugged her shoulders dramatically. I got nothing this year, nothing. She finished the last crumbs of pizza crust on her lunch tray and pushed it away. I have appearances to keep up, you know? I'm supposed to be Madame Darkness. Can't have people thinking I'm the kind girl to have Disney movie marathons with this dweeb. She motioned towards Asa with a sly smile and kept talking. But Asa wasn't listening anymore. The tiny cafeteria, already nearly full to the brim with about 100 kids, had just gotten more packed, as the basketball team trooped in, wearing their shorts and jerseys from last year. As usual, the team was led by Carter, who had a cocky, well-practiced smirk spread across his face as he made his way to the front of the cafeteria line, practically shoving kids out of his way. In a small town like Knighting, Carter had the joy of being the captain of a co-ed basketball team. Asa was sure that the larger number of girls on the team was undoubtedly Carter's doing. Philly got Asa's attention with a groan. Remind me again why on earth you want to be part of Carter Lark's crew? He's literally the worst person on earth. On earth, Asa repeated, although the twist in his gut reminded him that he agreed with Philly's sentiment. Hitler's already dead, right? So yes, the worst person on earth. Asa crunched his way through the last of his carrots and swallowed, making a loud gasping noise as air entered his mouth again. Doesn't that seem a little harsh? Asa followed Philly's gaze as she turned back around to see Carter push his way up the long line, grab his tray, and shove through the crowded tables. Asa noticed Carter pass by Kim and Devin as if they were invisible. Kim and Devin were on the basketball team last year, but not all the players had made it onto Carter's list of people worth noticing, so nobody else noticed them either. With a snort of disgust, Philly turned back to Asa. No, I don't think that's comparing him to dictators is too harsh. Asa watched how confidently Carter and his friends sauntered across the cafeteria and knew that he could be like that. He didn't have to be a Kim or a Devin. He could be the exception. He tried to imagine walking around in Carter's crowd, but it wasn't easy. He didn't look like them. I promise you, Philly said, watching them, you don't want to be that kind of cool. Maybe you should ditch basketball tryouts for a movie night and popcorn. Still not taking his eyes off the other boy, Asa watched puzzled as Carter and his friend strolled past the rest of the tables to an obscure corner of the cafeteria. Huddled in the corner that Carter was heading to was Sammy, writing furiously. Sammy always conjured in Ace's mind the image of a puppy shivering and humiliated from a freezing, unwanted bath. He was significantly shorter than Carter. When Sammy was bent over his notebook, he seemed to be half Carter's height. His tray of food was next to him, mostly uneaten. His hands scribbled on a notebook propped in his lap, and he paused only long enough to brush his long black bangs away from his watery eyes. Of the very few people who were friendly to Sammy, Carter was definitely not one of them. Asa pulled himself up. "Where are you going?" Philly asked. Bracing himself, Asa turned with what he hoped looked like a casual shrug. "I'm just going to go see if I can make some new friends." He glanced back at Sammy, whose notebook was being snatched out of his hands by Carter. Sammy gave a yelp and reached out like a sad child whose toy had been taken away. "And I'm going to see if I can stop him from pounding Sammy." Philly grimaced at the scene and then sighed and stood up. "I guess I can't let you get destroyed by them on your own." Asa pretended not to see that kids shot him and Philly glances as they made their way over to the far corner. Other students were averting their eyes, as if not seeing the bully would make it stop. Carter wagged the book over Sammy's head as the smaller boy stumbled to his feet, tripping over his ripped cargo pants and brushing more of his black hair out of his face. "Give me that back, Carter!" Carter did the one thing that always made Asa wince. He laughed, his loud, low cackle. It sounded to Asa like sandpaper felt on skin. "Nah, I need this. They ran out of toilet paper in the bathroom." Carter turned to his cronies, the other members of the basketball team, who had made it onto the list of people worth knowing. Gavin Green, a spindly, nasally kid who never started the trouble but joined in the second that Carter did, took the book from Carter to keep it further out of Sammy's reach. Asa shoved past the line of students still waiting with empty trays till he could see Carter's whole group fencing Sammy in. Next to Carter was Brielle Gearhart, who looked more like she belonged with the cheerleaders than on the basketball team. She was as popular as one could get in a small town like Nining. Asa theorized that she loved herself almost as much as she loved her coats of makeup. Her dirty blonde hair had a pink streak running through it for added flair, but Asa thought the pink just made her hair look grungy. If anyone wanted to know a shred of gossip for the rudimentary school paper, they went to Brielle. Becoming friends with Carter and his followers seemed less appealing the more Asa thought about it. He shook himself and pushed forward. He needed this change. Carter he could deal with. Brielle he might just have to settle on ignoring. Lastly, next to Brielle and laughing along with the boys was Laura Marty, a big girl who could bully and punch kids around just as easily as Carter could. She held up her hands with a notebook as Sammy started reaching up toward Gavin like a kid trying to jump to the first branch of a tree. With a snigger, Gavin tossed the notebook to Laura, who caught it. Asa, feeling more cowardly the closer he got to them, began to slow. Philly didn't. She strode up behind Laura, who was holding the notebook out of Sammy's reach, and snatched the battered notebook out of his hand. Philly held it close to her chest like a football player playing keep-away. "How about all of you shove it and actually get a personality outside of being bullies from an 80s sitcom?" The entire group immediately turned on their new opponent. Philly stood defiantly in front of them, notebook still clutched close. Carter looked her up and down and then snorted. "Look who it is. Aren't you the wannabe goth?" The group chorused a laugh, and Brielle shook her head, her eyebrows hunching together, as if Philly were nothing but a walking joke. "I'd like to think of myself as a little bit less cliche than a goth, which is fortunate because you guys are about 10 times more cliche than a regular goth." Asa hissed through his teeth. The group didn't seem to find the most recent insult as funny, and Laura had started to circle the group, her hand flexed into a fist. Carter stepped forward. Sammy shrank into the background, his arms tucked close to his chest. Philly didn't back down, but stepped closer to Carter and Gavin, practically on tiptoe so she could look bigger. Knowing he needed to intervene and with school suspensions on his mind, Asa stepped between Philly and the others, trying to look chill and hopefully not like a worm that was about to get stomped on. "Hey, come on, just back off, guys. Philly, give Sammy the notebook." With a new target on the board, Carter turned his attention to Asa, something Asa normally would have been pleased with, but which now felt like a big red flag leaping up in his brain. "Who are you?" Asa tried not to be insulted. In a school in Montana, where each graduating class was about 50 students, it was easy for everyone to know everyone. Kids like Philly, who were willing to shove back, stood out. Kids like Sammy, who wished they were invisible but were easy punching bags, stood out. Asa, who had purposely tried to black out his record after junior high, didn't stand out. At all. Not yet. Before Asa could finish thinking of what to say, Philly stepped forward. "He's about to be your new teammate after tomorrow's tryouts. Pretty good idea, if you ask..." Whoa. "Pretty good idea, if you ask me, considering that the team needs someone who isn't a total jerk." Internally, Asa groaned. Externally, he gave what he hoped looked like a confident shrug. Carter made a face that looked like he was trying to hold in a burp, but then his mouth opened and a blast of laughter filled the cafeteria, making a few other students glance in their direction. Gavin joined in quickly with his high-pitched snigger. Brielle laughed along with them, but Laura just glared condescendingly and shook her head. "Wait," Laura said, "you're the board game nerd, right? You don't stand a chance." Asa winced. The mention of board games made his stomach shift uncomfortably. Carter moved in on Asa, but before anything could happen, his face changed, a deer in the headlights. Asa glanced over his shoulder. The laughter had caught not just other students' attention, but the attention of the school principal and Mrs. Huff, Philly's mom. The group dispersed, Gavin giving a quick "see ya" tryouts in an overly friendly voice as he passed. Philly glared lines of fire at them as they went, and then smiled at Sammy and extended the notebook in her hand to him. He took it with a shaky smile. "Thanks, guys." He sounded like a wounded animal, more so than usual. "Sorry about them," Asa said. "What were you writing?" Sammy slumped back down in his corner, his pencil in hand. "Oh, just more stories, you know." Asa loved to read, and itched to hear what the book was about, but he could still feel the eyes of the basketball team on his back, so he said nothing and let Philly talk instead. "Your story have any dead bodies in it?" Sammy looked up mortified as he glanced. "Bodies? No, why would I write about that?" Philly grinned, clearly happy he'd asked. Asa already knew the answer, because all great stories start with them. And that's the end of the chapter.